Good morning. Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty at a Haggerty10 on the Twitter handle, as you all know by now, or the X handle, as you know by now. And I'm joined by Ryan McGinlay at the Ryan McGinlay on the X handle. Friday the 15th of September. Fitbuzz returning. Ryan, yalde, 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 and all that kind of phrase. Yowza, yowza, yowza. On we go. Celtic play Dundee. How are you, Ryan? You good?
Things are good. Yeah, I'm really excited for the game tomorrow. Good to be getting back to Celtic Park as well. Feels like forever since Celtic last played. That St Johnstone game feels like a long time ago. One because of the St John, not the just talked about the St Johnstone game. One because of the Rangers game at Ibrox, and two because of this long international break. I can't imagine what it would have been like if we lost that game at Ibrox, because this international break has been very long as it is. I can't imagine what it would have been like with a loss to sort of dwell over for 2 weeks. So glad that Celtic got the win. But what is it, sorry?
Painful it would have been, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just glad that Celtic got the win, and they can players can recharge their batteries. I know there's been a couple of disappointments with regard to injuries, but tomorrow should be an exciting one, as the title says. Potentially 3 debuts, maybe even 4. You know, I didn't even count Tillio in that, who's back in training. I don't know how far along he is in his development, or he's training back to full fitness, but at least 3 debuts, I would say, tomorrow. You know, I think that's a number that what people are talking about. 3 is the magic number. It could be the magic number tomorrow for debutants.
First, we'll start Thomas Gallagher. You guys are almost as bad as better than that about showing up late. Here you go. Weren't that late today, were we?
I don't know if we'll be in the Champions League squad though, Tony. That's the thing. I think we'll be left out. Liam Scales will get brought in as a late replacement on this podcast for one of us.
I think if you're compiling a Champions League squad, you and I are top of the list, Ryan. Straight in.
Wow.
No worries. I would say that. There you go. But we apologise if we were late. We always try and do our homework and before we come on here. And yeah, that's kind of what we're up to. Sometimes we have technical issues, other times we don't. It is what it is. But 10 o'clock-ish, 10:05-ish, isn't it? Round about then, Ryan, we sort of try and come live on here.
Absolutely, yeah. You know where you'll find us. Right about that time, we'll come on and we'll give you the best Celtic news that the internet has to offer every weekday. So yeah, that's where you'll find us. But we're looking forward to getting into talking about today's topics.
Francis Pre-Seagreen saying Brendan will be having a word. Okay, he probably will, but there you go. Yeah, now you've put it at the top of the briefing headline. Will Brendan Rodgers facilitate 3 Celtic debuts tomorrow? You mentioned Marco Tilly, possible 4, because Brendan said he was out training, but he's maybe a wee bit away. But those players who you would think would get some game time tomorrow are Nat Phillips, Paulo Bernardo, and Lewis Palmer. Yeah, I think that's the 3 that you're alluding to. Now, out of all of them, Ryan, any of them a certain starter for you?
I think out of those 3, I think the one that's most likely to start, and even then there could be a potential question mark as to whether you put in Liam Scales or not, but I think Nat Phillips has got to start, especially with Feyenoord coming up on Tuesday. That's a game that you would have drafted Nat Phillips in to play specifically. You know, he has emergency cover, but he's also of a higher level, I would say, than some of our other defenders. It's very good the way it's worked out, because I think he is a decent defender. We've said this about Shane Duffy before, but I don't think he'll have any problems up here, or he'll have minimum problems with dealing with it up here. He's played in the Premier League before, played for a big club in Liverpool. He knows the expectation that's put on his shoulders to win games. You know, Liverpool are the same. They're expected to win every game or most games that they come up against, or most teams that they come up against. So it'll be the same at Celtic. You're just hoping that he can come in. He can benefit from it as much as Celtic can in the long run, I would say, because, you know, this is only until January, and then both sides will review the situation. But it's a great time for Nat Phillips to come in and get some needed game time, because for a 26-year-old, I don't even think he's played 200 games in his career as a 26-year-old. I think he must be hitting only about 100, 150, which is incredible for a player of his age. You know, you talk
Mhm.
about Reo Hatate being a young 25. He's like a baby at 26 with the lack of game time that he's had. That's just you sitting on the bench and being a sort of bit part player at Liverpool. Some players will be happy with that, other players will move on. I think now he's the latter and he wants some regular game time as he gets into the prime of his career. And he can get that at Celtic quite instantly because of the injury crisis that's going on. I think he'll, to be perfectly honest with you, I think he'll walk into the team tomorrow. I think it'll be him and Lagerbielke at the back, and I think that'll be the centre back pairing going forward, including against Feyenoord as well. You would say.
I like the cut of his jib, as they say in the West Coast, when he spoke about he had other options, but Celtic was the one that immediately leapt out to him, which is why he's here. And yeah, I thought he spoke very, very well. And like you, I think Brendan Rodgers tomorrow will produce a lineup with Feyenoord in mind. And I think Phillips will start alongside Lagerbielke as well, because I think you want that layer of security, don't you? Going into a Champions League opener against Feyenoord away. It was a high risk at Ibrox with Liam Scales being at centre back, but you got the reward. I just don't think the high risk reward strategy would work in the Champions League, and I think you are putting a square peg in a square hole in terms of Nat Phillips and Lagerbielke being centre backs, and I think that's what the manager wants. And I for one think that will be the central defensive pairing tomorrow, and it's nothing against Scales because he did a cracking job at Ibrox, but I think the manager's pragmatic more than anything else, isn't he? And he has to look at getting Phillips much needed game time, and you are casting your eye to the bigger test that will happen on Tuesday night. I think a game against Dundee is ideal to get them slotted in there, get Lagerbielke and Nat Phillips to get some kind of understanding, the development partnership relationship going, and then you take it into Tuesday night. Might seem tough luck on Scales, but it's just the way it is, and it's just the way it's functioning at Celtic at the minute. And who's to say Brendan Rodgers might not throw a curveball and put Scales in at left back and place a Taylor, something like that. He might. You know, that's a.
You're trying to spice up these predicted 11s, aren't you? Because mine and your team would be very, very similar. I know that for a fact.
It's a consideration. That's all I'm saying. Not saying it will happen, but it would be a consideration, wouldn't it? So we will see. But yeah, and I know for a fact that having written about him today, Reo Hatate will come straight back into your starting 11, Ryan, in the midfield alongside McGregor and O'Reilly. That's a given, I would have thought, for your midfield tomorrow, yeah?
Yeah, I was doing another podcast last night and I was talking to my mate about how I think we were on both different sides. He was saying, now do you bring Hatate off the bench with 30 minutes to go? Do you give him some game time ahead of Feyenoord? I was the complete opposite. I think the league is so important this year. It's important every year. It is the bread and butter. I don't think Celtic can afford to have a player of Hatate's quality on the bench. I think if we're going to have players of quality on the bench, it should be someone like Odenholm or Paulo Bernardo who can work their way into the team. As far as I see it, and everybody knows this, everybody knows that I'm a big Hatate fan. If Hatate's fit, Hatate should be playing games because he is dynamic. The level of the midfield, I think, accelerates and increases so much when he is on the park. Yes, he takes risks. Yes, he gives the ball away, but he is the risk taker in the team. He is the guy that's trying to break lines with his passing and his forward movement. He gives you something that Turnbull does not give you. Hatate can do things that Turnbull takes 2 or 3 movements to do. Hatate can do that in 1 movement. That's the difference. I'm not naive to think that this won't be Hatate's last season because I think it will be. I think he'll be gone next season. Whether or not he signs a new deal, I think will impact the amount of money that Celtic get with regard to Hatate. But he's one of these players that I think Celtic fans should enjoy. He's a player that definitely will be starting on Tuesday, I would say. But I'm the opposite. I would much rather he starts on Saturday, he gets the win tied up in 60 minutes, then you can take him off and bring on a Bernardo or an Odin home. Play your best players for 60 minutes, get the job done, because the league is the bread and butter. The prize at the end of the league is incredible, the amount of money that Celtic could get in terms of euros for the new Swiss model of the Champions League. So get the job done, 60 minutes, you can bring Odin home or Paulo Bernardo on. And you can do that with O'Reilly as well. 60 minutes, you can take him off as well and put one of those two on. And then you're getting a good wee mix of the two. You're getting Hatate back, minutes in the legs, and then you're seeing some of the new players as well. But Hatate's got to start for me.
So he's got to start for Steve McGrory as well, who's gone early with his teams and subs. And his humble opinion will be Joe Hart, Alistair Johnston, Nat Phillips,
that's my team.
Gustav Lagerbielke, Greg Taylor, Callum McGregor, Reo Hatate, Matt O'Reilly, Yang, and Maeda on the wings, and Kyogo centre forward. Subs: Bain, Ralston, Scales, Odin Thiago Holm, David Turnbull, James Forrest, and Lewis Palmer, and Paulo Bernardo as well. So he's thinking along the same lines as yourself, probably the same as myself as well. So there's an early call from Steve. Good morning, Steve. Hope you're well, sir. I think Steve will be at that game, I think he said to me. Private DM, he's looking forward to being back at Celtic Park, so enjoy. I'm sure you will, sir. I'm inclined to think that Bernardo and Thiago Holm will see some game minutes tomorrow, but I think it's what you've just said there. I think Celtic will try and get the job done, and then those guys might come on with 25 minutes to go if the job is done. But it's like everything else, it's not a given, it's not a gimme. You have to earn the right to beat teams, and as Celtic found out against St Johnstone, it didn't go their way. But you're hoping that Ibrox is the launchpad, springboard, call it what you like, to bigger and better things, and Celtic can string a run of consistency, form, results, performance, all of that. We can string it together, basically, and I think there's been an extra spring in the step since Ibrox. I heard Brendan Rodgers talking yesterday as well. Abada's injury apart, he seemed quite bullish and confident and kind of relaxed about it all, didn't he? To be fair to him.
Yeah, I thought he was in good form yesterday. I don't know if you've seen the video that I put up with his response to the transfer window. I said that was the closest you're going to get with regard to an Ange answer for Brendan Rodgers. It was like two worlds coming together. But yeah, apart from that, he seemed like he was in good spirits. I don't know about you, but the past few press conferences, both post-match, pre-match, and some of the Celtic TV interviews, I think the thunder's back. I think the fire is back in his belly, and I think he's mentioning a lot about that word crystallised, how the St Johnstone game will crystallise things.
Funny that, eh?
I know it's he was saying that the same with regard to the Gibraltar game against Lincoln Red Imps. I'm glad that he remembered the name after a bit of day, because he just said the Gibraltar team in Celtic TV. But he's I think he's reopened some old wounds, and maybe watched the highlights of that game because he knows the name of the team now. But yeah, that St Johnstone game, it wasn't the greatest atmosphere. I think it was down to the fact that they put out the League Cup the week before as well. But performance as well, the two performances were just not up to scratch. We were looking for something special with regard to the performance at Ibrox, and as much as there was some performances that were maybe a wee bit shaky, even the players that did do well, they had a couple of bad moments. Scales and Lagerbielke were a bit shaky in some moments. I know you've mentioned that. They got the job done, and the 3 points, they've got that bit of breathing space at 4 points. It'll be interesting to see what Rangers do before the game, see what happens at St Johnstone. We don't know what result could come in that game. It's very much up in the air with regard to how things are at the moment. But regardless of what that result is at 12:30 on Saturday, Celtic will be top of the league coming into the 3 o'clock fixture, and it's a chance to extend it, whether that be to 5 points, 7 points. It's one of those ones, or 4 points if Rangers win the game, which you would maybe assume that they do, but you never know in these situations. As long as, because they're top of the league with that cushion of 4 points, Celtic know that they will be top regardless at the end of play. So, or at the start of play rather. So it'll be interesting to see how those games go. But I'm expecting Celtic to come out and put in a good performance. We've got the results in most of the games, but I want to see a good 90-minute performance, and another clean sheet would be absolutely ideal. You starters you mean to go on with these habits. Celtic have got two clean sheets on the bounce. I know one of them was a draw, but 2 clean sheets. I want to make it 3 tomorrow.
My thoughts on these matter, Ryan, are that you affect what you can control. You can't control the Rangers results, so whatever happens in Perth happens. But I think Celtic just be clinical, ruthless, and do the job against Dundee and set yourself up nicely for Tuesday. And I think that's what the focus and attention should always be. Yeah, there's a game on before it. Yep, there'll be some kind of obviously there'll be a result there, and what will be there in Perth. But I just think Celtic just focus on themselves, focus on the job at hand. The job at hand is beating Dundee, hopefully convincingly. Hopefully that spring in the step and that bounce is transferred to the players from the Ibrox result. I'm sure it will. Yep, they've been hit by some other injury news and blows, but you've got players coming back. You've got new players possibly making their debuts tomorrow. So I think it's a kind of perfect storm, as I say, for Celtic to go out and put on a show, basically, and see if we can, Ryan, for the first time this season, get that rip-roaring, free-scoring, never-boring performance that we hope transpires. And I think tomorrow the conditions certainly seem ripe for it. But again, it'll be no pushover. You have to earn the right to beat teams. St Johnstone showed exactly what you can do if you camp in and everything goes your way, and you stick to a game plan. So Celtic are going to come up against something like that, no doubt, and we'll have to find a way around that. But they did very well at Ibrox, played very well, created a lot of chances at Ibrox. So I'm hoping that they do the same at home against Dundee, dominate, and put a better ratio chance conversion and put them away, because you expect the onus to be on Celtic to attack. Dundee might camp in and sit in and see if they can hit them on the break, and you don't blame them for that. Tony Docherty said he was sick of the sight of Brendan Rodgers, didn't he?
I was going to mention that, yeah.
His pre-match, because I think Aberdeen came up against the invincible side, didn't they? And just couldn't find a way. They ran them close, but not close enough. And Tony's got lots of memories of playing against a Brendan Rodgers Celtic team, but he's not got many happy memories. So hopefully that continues tomorrow. And vested interest, because I know Tony Docherty's a boy from East Kilbride, a couple of years older than me at school. Nice fella as well, great guy, good friend as well. So as much as I wish him all the best, I can't wish him all the best for tomorrow, because he's up against the team I support. But any other time, Tony, I hope your team wins and I hope you do well. And as a manager, a Premier League manager.
Yeah, he's got 363, 362 days a year in which you can wish him all the best. But those games that he's competing against Celtic, yeah, that goes out the window, absolutely. Yeah, it's good that he's carving out his own path as well. He was I'm sure he was Derek McInnes's assistant at Aberdeen. That was a really good pairing, the two of them. I thought Aberdeen were really good under Derek McInnes. Probably should have won a trophy or two more in their time, but I think that the problem was they came up against Brendan Rodgers. No wonder they're sick of the sight of him. It was, it was a really tongue-in-cheek comment, because some of the stuff he was saying about Brendan Rodgers was absolutely lovely. And Brendan Rodgers does strike you as this welcoming guy, this guy that wants to speak to people. So did Ange Postecoglou, to be fair. Celtic have this habit of bringing in managers that are quite welcoming to other managers and wanting to speak. They're on good terms with them. So, yeah, that's a good reunion for them. Hopefully Docherty isn't too happy after the game, because that means that Celtic have put in a good performance and a good win. So yeah, wish him all the best in every other game, but in terms of a Celtic game, I hope his team get cuffed, respectfully.
yes, respectfully cuffed. Indeed, I like that. But yeah, I think there's a rein being put on the excitement building towards tomorrow, Ryan, isn't there? Because I think the Celtic supporters are expecting Celtic to come out the blocks and to this is going to be a kind of different game, isn't it? I think the season can kind of start in earnest. I think we said after Ibrox that that's the Brendan Rodgers era being launched in earnest, and I'm looking for some kind of big reaction tomorrow. Considering what happened in the last home game, and the fact that Celtic have already been knocked out of the League Cup. So you're hoping that, I hate using the word, but you do want to try and build some momentum, don't you? And then you've got Tuesday, which is just a wonderful prospect, and you want to compete in the best competition, the best club competition in football. So, and the chips fall where they may in that kind of game, and we'll discuss that game in greater detail in the lead up to it. But it's just, it is a result of paramount importance tomorrow. A performance in the result would be great tomorrow, but first and foremost, you work in the result, don't you? But I just think that there's a wee feel-good factor coursing through Celtic just now. The injuries are part, but and you've had 2 weeks to get the new guys kind of assimilated as well. Lewis Palmer's coming back, and that's why I think Lewis Palmer might not start tomorrow. So I think Brendan mentioned the travelling aspect of it, didn't he?
Just back today.
Yeah, so
that's a big ask. It's a big ask.
But again, if the player feels fine and the manager feels he can do a job, then he might put him in at the start, give him an hour or whatever. But I think the wise thing to do would maybe be half an hour off the bench, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about, you were saying the wise thing to do. I don't know if you've read any of Brendan Rodgers' comments to the print media with regard to Liel Abada.
Yeah.
It was clear that Liel Abada did not do the wise thing with regard to that shooting drill, especially when he just came off a plane. He was talking about a player that's at Sevilla now, Suso, who he worked with at Liverpool, did the same thing when he did training far too quickly, with the pressure was still on his legs after coming off the plane with the altitude and all that. And that can really hamper you and cause injury. He said it was a learning experience for Liel Abada, but it could be the same for Palmer. You don't want him to be coming off a plane and then straight on. I think he is an asset, even though Celtic haven't seen him too much. I mean, we've only seen clips of him at Aris and then for Honduras a couple of days ago. But he's still an asset. At the end of the day, Celtic have paid 3.5 million for him. You want to protect your assets, whether or not you've seen them play. And I think, Celtic get the job done last half an hour, last 20 minutes, bring Palm on, give him a standing ovation, let him feel what Celtic Park's all about, and let's see what he can do in the last 20 minutes, especially against tired legs, get that confidence going.
I think you talk about travelling, everybody always remembers Efe Ambrose, don't they? Yeah. Stepping off a plane and playing against Juventus in the Champions League and what unfolded there. And so I think everybody's kind of judgment or minds are clouded by that episode, and I think,
and he was so good before it too. That's the incredible thing about all of this. I think there was he seemed to play with no doubt in his head, Efe Ambrose, at all. There was hardly any mistakes in his game, because before then I remember that Celtic, he made his debut against a Raith Rovers or something like that, and he played as a defensive midfielder. He played alongside Wanyama that night, and it looked absolutely incredible. Him in the defensive, it was a bit like it was like David Luiz. I've always said that David Luiz should have been a defensive midfielder instead of a centre back. It'd be a better position for him. But yeah, he looked. That's the thing about Efe Ambrose. He looked so good, and then it seems that Juventus game, they'd just come off the back of winning the African Cup of Nations. He'd been rushed back. He wanted to play in the game, and that turned out to be the worst possible thing, because he looked like a deer in headlights. He was all over the place. He was so good against Barcelona, but he was all over the place against Juventus. That was a systematic destruction from Juventus that night. As much as Celtic did well against Barcelona, they came up against a really polished outfit in Conte's Juventus.
I think Brendan's also marking the point, and I agree with Sam Hartley wholeheartedly in this, that Brendan Rodgers is quite nuanced in his press conference about who would play and for how long. I think sometimes players need to be safe from themselves. Every player's going to say, I'm fit and I'm ready to play. I think managers have that final call and say, and, no player's going to say, no, don't start me or don't play me. They're always going to say, I'm fine, I'm good. The old Martin Neil and Archie Gemmill with Brian Clough in the European Cup final. Are you fit? Yeah, you're not playing. So it's like he dropped him for the European Cup final, and took both of them a long time to forgive Brian Clough, but Nottingham Forest won it, so he was vindicating that decision. So I think that rest and recuperation, R&R as they call it, are vitally important for players, especially players who, like Palmer, have had a long travelling experience. So I think if he does play, he'll get, the cameo from the bench, maybe 20, 25 minutes, possibly even half an hour. But yeah, and I think Brendan was, like Sam Harty said there, I think he was kind of, actually signposting that, saying there's a travelling issue involved with Lewis Palmer, so maybe not expect him to start. But I'm sure he'll allow him to take his bow at some point, so that, which would be good because everybody's dying to see them. Every Celtic supporter's dying to see the new players, aren't they? So it's what
always exciting. Yeah,
they'll turn up
I
en
think
masse tomorrow, hopefully to see those three debutants, as you say. But I think the caveat being that Nat Phillips is a certain debutant to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I've mentioned Rafe Rovers a couple of times in this podcast. It's incredible. But 2 years ago, I remember Jota. I think it was Jota made his debut against Rafe Rovers, or it was near enough that time when he played against Rafe Rovers. I know he scored his first goal for Celtic in that game too. But that was an exciting time with a new winger coming into the club with Jota showing his stuff. You're just wanting Dundee to be the same with regard to Palmer. Don't want to rush him too much, but it is an exciting period, especially even with Nat Phillips. I think it's quite exciting. A new player, any new player coming into the team, a fresh face with new ideas, with a new way of playing, with a different way of playing altogether. It's always interesting to see new players coming around, but it doesn't seem as if anybody's talking about Paulo Bernardo. Is he going to be this surprise player that's going to take everyone by surprise? Because it was really in a position that Celtic, when everybody's fit, it doesn't really look like a position that would need strengthening when you've got Matt O'Reilly, David Turnbull, Reo Hatate, Odin Holm. You look at that on paper, that's a really strong midfield. Cal McGregor as well. And then you've got youth players too that can accommodate and facilitate. But, I think this is just my opinion, but I think Paulo Bernardo has been identified late on in the window as a player that you can't say no to. As a player that they've noticed before. If you type it, I know we use SNS for photos. With regard to our articles, he did play against Scotland in an under-17s match. He also was on the bench against Rangers in the Europa League. So he has been in and around both the international setup and the Benfica squad. He's maybe one of these players that Celtic have scouted, they've kept an eye on. He's become available. And Celtic have been like, yeah, we need to bring him in. We need to facilitate this player. Even though it's a busy midfield, this player is too good not to go for. I'm hoping that will be the case, and I'm hoping that he can just come in and really make a position his own, make it really uncomfortable for players that are so used to their positions. I want Matt O'Reilly to be scrapping for that place. I know he's been Celtic's best player this season, along with Kyogo, but I want him to be scrapping for that position because he knows he's got Paulo Bernardo breathing down his neck for it.
I quite like the fact that there's been no fanfare surrounding Paulo Bernardo because he's young. I just want him to come in and hit the ground running and show us what he has. I think, and there's every possibility that he can do that because I think it was a no-brainer in terms of bringing him in, and like Odin Thiago Holm, you'd look at those two and you think there's wonderful potential there, and both of them are very young. And we spoke about the other day in terms of succession planning. If that's the succession planning in terms of Hatate and O'Reilly, then Celtic are, trying to get their ducks in a row, shall they say? And I think, and I would bring Paulo Bernardo on tomorrow at some stage.
Mm-hmm.
Just give him a taste of it and give him a feel for it, because you might have to bring him on in Holland, depending on, again, going back to matters of trust, right? Matters of trust. So, and if he brings something to the table that the manager clearly wants and brought him. So, I think you have to give these guys their chance to show you what they can do, show you what they've got, and so that you can turn to them on Tuesday night if need be and say, right, there you go, stage is set. This is what you've craved all your career.
Mm-hmm.
I know you're a young man, but I've no qualms about you going in there and doing a job for us. So I'm all for that, because I think they just should be exposed to that as early as possible without throwing them to the wolves type thing. I think, situations where you think Right. Cool.
Don't say thrown to the Wolves. I know Wolves love a Portuguese player. I don't want him gone already. He's just joined.
But you know what I mean? So I'm quite happy, and I would quite like to see Bernardo both tomorrow and on Tuesday, because I think, like you say, that he's ducked under the radar, hasn't he?
Yep.
But I think there could be something quite special there with him, and he's coming from an academy that's got a track record for producing decent players, so it's good enough for me, and I think he could well turn out to be a bright spark in that Celtic midfield. And like you say, you cannot beat competition for places challenging O'Reilly, Hatate, and everybody home, and even McGregor to be a starter. Go and do it. The stage is now yours. You've got an opportunity and a platform here to show everybody what you can do. I say that to all the midfielders, but the thing that I've said consistently for the past couple of weeks is the plethora of options that we now have there, Ryan. That pleases me greatly. And we've got a plethora of options where you look and you think every one of them's a good footballer. And my thoughts on good footballers being in your team. You shoehorn them in. Yeah, you shoehorn them in. You find a way, don't you? So, and I think the manager is thinking like that too, because we're going to need options, especially in the Champions League.
Yeah, it's looking like a very, very congested midfield now. You just wonder, with some other players in and around that team, even players that have been starting, where does their future lie? Brendan Rodgers did talk about the fact that Turnbull needs to do it every game. He can't just have one performance and then dip in his levels. Unfortunately, and I know it sounds harsh to say that, but it seems as if his level did dip after the Ross County game, because I don't think he's got to the same level since being afforded that opportunity. He got was it 2 goals he got on the day? Yeah, it was 2 goals he got on the day. But his follow-up performance against Aberdeen wasn't great, and his other ones as well were not anything to shout about either. So, with a year left on his deal, what do you do with him? Do you give him an extension and hope that he improves, or is it just one of these that's going to run down and maybe something gets agreed in January? I think that's all down to Bernardo as well, to be honest. I think Bernardo holds a lot of the playing cards with regard to how good he is. If he's good, then he'll demand a position, whether that be in the starting lineup or on the bench coming off of it. That's one less space on the bench to worry about, which means that there will be a knock-on effect. Does that mean Turnbull doesn't get in the team? Does that mean Iwata doesn't get in the team? Still not even talked about Kwon yet. He was signed in the summer. He already looks so far out. It's absolutely incredible. I think in terms of Kwon, he's a longer term project. He's just came from the second division of South Korean football. So yeah, he could be a longer term project, someone that they can work with over a couple of years before getting the necessary results out of him. But in terms of the shorter term, there's players that I think the writing's on the wall with them, if I'm being perfectly honest. It's up to them. They can change the course of their destiny at this moment in time with good performances when they're afforded the chance. But, as it stands right now, there's the new kids on the block. The new kids are on the block now, and the old ones have got to basically shape up, or they know where they'll be going. They'll be on the block, the chopping block, basically.
It's like we're talking about a podcast there. New kids on the block yourself, and the old ones like myself. So I was kind of microcosmic of that. But there you go. I think the new players have got a real chance to shine now, haven't they? Because they will get game time, and players will be pushed further down that pecking order or out the first team picture altogether. People are talking about Iwata as well. I mean, Iwata was named in the Champions League squad, but I just don't see where he gets game time. Do you?
No, and I see where he gets game time in terms of right back. That's where he got game time in pre-season, but he was third or fourth choice right back at that point. It was down to injuries to both Ralston and Johnson. So if that's where Brendan Rodgers sees him, in a midfield that did have chops and changes in pre-season in terms of the players that were playing. They had Hatate, you had McGregor, O'Reilly, different players coming in at different moments. Iwata never get tested in that defensive midfield role. the one that he sort of made his own. Well, not made his own, but you knew that he could be depended on in the second half of the season. Remember in particular 2 Celtic Rangers games that he came onto the pitch and really solidified things and calmed things down on the park. There was a state of frenzy in the midfield in the engine room, and Hatate came on, totally calmed things down. It's one of these ones where Celtic had an obligation to buy on the player. They couldn't get out of it. Not that I think they were going to get out of it, but there was some talks for a couple of weeks before it was announced. Are they going to go through with it? They have to go through with it. That was part of the deal with Yokohama from Marinos. That's why they allowed him to go, because they were guaranteed money at the end of the day. It wasn't just a simple loan deal. But some players just don't fit the manager's ideas, or some players the manager will prefer other players to maybe Hatate, and that's maybe the crux of the matter, to be honest. As disappointing as it is, and yes, he's still got time to improve. He's got every day in training to prove that he should be in and around that team, but he's going to have to be quick about it. He's in the prime of his career. He's 26 years old, and if he wants game time, then he's either going to have to step up or he's going to have to go out on a loan deal, because, it's 26, you need to be playing football at the end of the day. You can't be sitting about on the bench. I think Nat Phillips has found that out at Liverpool. You need to be playing games and keeping sharp, and Hatate will be the same. I keep on saying him reigning Japanese Player of the Year. I don't know if another one's been crowned. I'm going to give him that just now. But and in fact, I still think he will be the reigning, because the Japanese season isn't over yet. But yeah, he's a player that arrived with a bit of fanfare, showed glimpses, he showed some really nice wee performances, a couple of shaky moments, but if Brendan Rodgers doesn't fancy him, then he's going to have to go and search for more game time, whether that be a loan and permanent.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Plunge McNugget coming in, seems Palmer just back from Honduras today, so he doesn't think he'll play tomorrow. The manager mentioned the travel aspect of that, but I don't think he said he wouldn't play. I've got a feeling he'll give him some sort of cameo role from
half an hour,
20
minutes.
Yeah, something like that. Indeed. But yeah, I think it's curious case of Hatate, really, isn't it? But I think it's just down to the fact that the managers just think that there's better players in front of them and in that pecking order at Celtic in the midfield at this moment in time.
Yeah, I thought the writing was starting or beginning to form on the wall when Kwon was brought in, because he does a lot of the same things, or he's supposed to do a lot of the same things in that position that Hatate would do. Kwon's obviously a couple of years younger. He's 22 and Hatate's 26. So that's a longer term prospect. Somebody that the club have identified. He's one of these players that Brendan Rodgers would say the club has identified through the pipe box and the scouting system. He's careful with his words, but he knows exactly what he's saying with regard to that. You can put 2 and 2 together with regard to what Brendan Rodgers is saying. Basically, they're giving me players, I'm working with them. I'm the coach, not the scout. So yeah, I think Kwon is a younger version of Hatate. I don't know how far of a level he'll get to, because it's been up and down in terms of pre-season. He's not made his competitive debut yet, so we've hardly seen anything of Kwon to get any sort of opinion on him. All we've got is a pre-season game. If that was the case when we had pre-season games, Hatate would be a dud because of his game against Athletic Bilbao. So yeah, I want to see more of him, but honestly at this point I don't see where that game time is coming, because Celtic are out the League Cup. It's not as if you can play against a lower division team in the League Cup and you can play all these players. It's going to be important games from here on out. So yeah, I don't know where he's honestly going to play. The same for Hatate and Kwon. I don't know where their next minutes are coming from, in all honesty.
Correct. Now, what are you expecting tomorrow, Ryan, against Dundee?
I'm hoping for goals. I'm hoping for a good performance. In terms of Dundee, I expect a low block to be formed, because that's the best way of stopping Celtic. I expect one player to be man marking Callum McGregor the whole game. I think that was one of Rangers' shortcomings in the game at Ibrox, that they didn't have a player on Callum McGregor the whole game. Barry Ferguson, sorry to mention another Rangers player on the podcast, but Barry Ferguson said if you stop Callum McGregor, you stop Celtic. That is true to a large extent, because he's one of Celtic's best players. He's the metronome, he keeps Celtic ticking throughout the game. Rangers didn't do that, and they allowed him the freedom of Ibrox Stadium to do what he wanted, and that contributed to a Celtic win. So I expect Dundee to be a bit more measured in their approach in terms of stopping McGregor in that midfield. Therefore, it's up to other players like Hatate and O'Reilly, if those two are selected. I expect O'Reilly to be selected, and if Hatate's fit, he plays. if those players are selected, they've got to help McGregor out and be available on the ball. You know, McGregor can play through these presses and play through that pressure from players that are on him the whole game, but he's going to need help from his other midfielders, and the wingers are going to have to be mobile and always looking for the ball. And Kyogo's just got to be in that box. You know, don't roam. Just stay in that box.
Correct.
I think you should be his coach, Tony, and you should tell him every time to just not go anywhere near
on the shoulder. Yeah,
like a wee force field on the box.
Yeah, you get like a kind of electric shock if he strays like 30 yards from goal, something like that. But yeah, I'm having him on the last defender. There's goals to be had tomorrow if you get the service to Kyogo.
I think there's an argument for O as well, to be honest. I know he's not played a lot of games, but I think, you know, against a physical side, I know sometimes you've got to play to teams' weaknesses as well, because if Dundee are a big team, they'll hate playing against a wee small guy like Kyogo who's just going to run at them. They might actually prefer playing against a big guy that they can post up against and win headers on. You know, some defenders really relish that, whereas they dislike Kyogo running at them and trying to dribble past them. Remember, John Souttar was always the same for Hearts. He never really liked playing against Kyogo because he was just a constant nightmare. He'd prefer having a big striker like Giakoumakis. I know Giakoumakis scored against Hearts as well during his time there, but he'd probably prefer Giakoumakis because he's easier to mark than Kyogo. Kyogo's everywhere, whereas you know that Giakoumakis is going to be posted up to a specific area, and midfielders and defenders are just going to hit him with long balls and crosses into the box. So yeah, I think there is definitely an argument for O as well. You know, after 60 minutes, if the game is done, I would definitely bring on O to give him half an hour. I think a lot of people are forgetting his performance against Aberdeen, the last game of the season. Looked really, really promising. That 20-minute cameo, you know, he could have easily came on and just took the minutes, took the win bonus and went home, but he was desperate to make a lasting impact, because that was one of the last games before. I know we had the Scottish Cup after that game, but it was one of the last game at Celtic Park to make a lasting impression ahead of next season, and he certainly did that. 2 goals, including a really, really good header. I think there's more to come from him. I'm hoping that Brendan Rodgers can morph him into a really good player, but, you know, it's all up to him as well.
There is more to come from him, but getting back to what I said, sometimes players need to be saved from themselves, and didn't declare an injury and sadly has missed out on the long run, you know, in the short term, if you get what I mean. But he was coming into the side, he was getting increased minutes and was making a case for him to be played up top. But, you know, he was dishonest about his injury and has paid a real heavy price for that. So it's maybe set him back in terms of his progression and development at Celtic. And I hope that he does get that game time that he craves, and he is able to show what he's got, and he comes back and can make that impact that everybody thought he was going to make. But, you know, I just think there's a lesson to be learned there as well about players just being upfront and honest. If they're carrying knocks, then declare them, and just don't risk, you know, yourself or, you know, the team, because he might have featured in Brendan Rodgers' plans. He might have been going to feature in Brendan Rodgers' plans, and that, you know, it's detrimental to everybody when that kind of thing happens. So, but I'm like you. I think there's a player there with O, and you know, you're waiting for it to be fully unleashed, and so hopefully in, you know, the next few weeks and coming months we'll see that. But, you know, just, you know, I think players need to, you know, they've got a duty, responsibility to themselves, but also their manager and their teammates. And when these things happen, then just be upfront and declare it and say, right, there's something, I feel something, I need to get checked out, I need to get tested, that kind of thing for an injury or whatever, or underlying circumstances, you know. So it's I just hope that it hasn't set him back too much, and he can become the player that people want to see at Celtic, because I think he could have a big future.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe a slight vote of confidence, the fact that another striker wasn't brought into the club as well. I know Maeda can play in that lone striker role. Brendan Rodgers seems to prefer him in that lone striker role, but he's realised, I think Brendan Rodgers himself has realised how much work rate Maeda will give you on the defensive end. That's why he played against Rangers in that position. It will be interesting to see Maeda's position going forward because of, especially regarding Luis Palma, who plays on the left-hand side, which is Maeda's default position at the moment. It's the position that most Celtic fans have seen him play in every game, bar maybe a couple, one or two. I know he made his debut against Hibs. He played up front and scored, but I think you do lose something with regard to his pressing. I know he can do that as a striker, but especially against teams like Rangers, with how much he negated Tavernier from doing his basically doing what he wants on the park in terms of an attacking sense. Him being in that position and posted up just stopped Tavernier from venturing forward. He was a constant pest for him, and that really did help in the balance of the game. I think for O, I hope he does make it, because there was a lot of talk on that in that January transfer window. I know Celtic were linked with two strikers in that January transfer window. It was O, and then it was Cho Gi-sung, who's joined Midfield, who's been scoring goals for Midfield as well. It seems as if that move has really done him good, and he's scoring goals for the Korean national team as well. That's who he's competing against in the Korean national team for that striking position. It's between O and Cho for who plays up front. There was a point in January where I thought Celtic were going to sign the two players. That didn't turn out to be the case. Cho's a wee bit older than O. Maybe that's the reason why O was preferred, because there's more scope to work with in terms of bringing in a younger talent that you can nurture more. But you're just hoping that was the right decision, bringing him in, because I think, yes, he is raw, but he's definitely got something about him. His passing ability was good. He showed that a couple of times at Ibrox, that he's a good passer of the ball. He could maybe even play further back. He could play Kyogo up front, put O as a number 10. He's big enough to play in that role. But, I think he's a good option to have, especially if Celtic are chasing a goal. They could even drop Kyogo back. I know you don't like him dropping back too much, but if you've got a focal point up front, and I know you're raging, but if you've got O up front, it's not as bad. If you've actually got a focal point to hit, and Kyogo can just roam about and try and make things happen in that number 10 role, then it could work. But you play to your strengths, and as it stands, Kyogo is definitely the Celtic's number one main man up front.
Yeah, and you're talking about Maeda. I think Maeda's ability to perform that kind of role will be vital for Tuesday. That energetic work rate and snuffing out of opponents, left back, left midfielders, marauding people down the left hand side. So I think it's you have to play to your strengths that way, don't you? In that sense, and another one of those selfless performances coming up from Maeda on Tuesday, which is a shame, because he probably thinks, I'm better than this. I can do other stuff, but he's kind of pigeonholed himself into that, hasn't he?
That's his problem for doing well in that position. That's his. He's been punished for being successful in a role. It's like if a player plays out of position in a position that he doesn't like. My dad always talks about it, how he was a striker when he was playing football, and then he played in defence. And he played so well that his manager at the time was saying, "Oh, we're just going to play you as a defender from now on." He's like, "No, I'm a striker. I want to play very much the Chris Sutton role. I'll do it when required, but I'm a striker by trade." It's definitely
plenty of strikers became defenders. I believe Willie Miller was a striker, and Tom McAdam, who played for Celtic
somebody in the comments as well was talking about Didier Agat.
Yeah, Didier Agat started off as a striker. Yeah, he did. But yeah, so blast from the past there. People remember Tom McAdam, also remember Willie Miller, who I believe both started out as strikers but ended up decent central defenders in their
Gerard
day.
Piqué made his debut as a striker, and then he was a centre-back for Barcelona. Just goes to show you don't really know your position until you've made it in the professional game.
That's very true. It's very true. I was a winger, an out-and-out winger. Or as my dad once referred to one of his players, told him to play like a down and out winger, whatever that was. A down and out winger.
I was left back at home, so I was definitely not an enemy. I was a football watcher rather than a football player. Much rather watch the football on the telly than play it. I'll play five-a-sides, but that's me.
I control the traffic in the five-a-sides. Is that what you do? Yeah, you just point.
Somebody's got to be the Mourinho in the team. I'll happy to be that. Oh, I can't say that because of Seville. Sorry, guys.
And somebody asking, was Roy Aitken not a striker? He might well have been. I wasn't aware of that. I just remember certainly Tom McAdam and others that were converted from strikers, but there you have it. Yeah, I think it has been a long 2 weeks, Ryan, in coming, but there's real anticipation and excitement building for Saturday against Dundee, and then obviously you get into Tuesday night. It's a cracking week for Celtic, isn't it? When you look at it, and here's hoping that they can get results in both matches, but it's where you want to be.
Yeah, got to be in it to win it. I don't think Celtic are going to win the Champions League, but as it stands, they're a competitor. There is still a chance to win a competition, so you've just got to go with that prefix that you can make as big an impact as you can in the competition. I think it's a group. I've been saying it a couple of times. It's a group that teams will take points off each other over the course of it. You're just hoping that where Celtic fall after 6 games is not fourth. Anywhere but fourth would be absolutely ideal. I know you want to finish second and get into the last 16 of the Champions League. For me, I'm usually the eternal optimist with absolutely everything that I say. I'll take anywhere but fourth will do me. If Celtic can get in a position where they can win a knockout tie, that's all I want. All I want is Celtic to win a knockout tie. One knockout tie. I've not seen it since I've supported Celtic. It's something that I've seen other teams doing it. It's not that it's annoying me, but it's irking me that Celtic have not done this since.
Clearly rankles with you, Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, because but there's games that Celtic should have won, like that game against Copenhagen, especially in 2020. That is a game that will forever irk me, especially when Edwards scores a penalty and he does the concentrate, and then we concede 2 minutes later. It's just against a bang average team in Copenhagen. May I add as well, who didn't look like they were up to much, but Celtic gave them an opportunity at home and they took it with both hands or feet. So yeah, it's that is a disappointing one. I'm just hoping that Celtic can be in it at a knockout stage and they can have a chance to move forward, because that would then show progression, and that's what we all wanted when Brendan Rodgers came back to the side. Win the domestic league and see progression in Europe. Anything else is a bonus, and I'll stand by that.
I would say let it go, Ryan, but I'm still annoyed about the World Club Championship in '67 and the European Cup final in 1970, and I wasn't even around. You know what I mean? And I'm upped that Celtic lost them. You know what I mean? So there you go. I wasn't even born. I still think about them and get annoyed, but hey, there you go. And Marty Boy bringing up Rapid Vienna, Old Trafford was the worst game. Oofed. He brings up Rapid Vienna, Old Trafford, 1984. My goodness. The wounds in that are still deep, and lots of people will be able to remember the original Atletico Madrid game in '74 when Jimmy Johnson was just completely and utterly, brutally assaulted on a football pitch, especially at Celtic Park. I've alluded to it before. Go and watch the YouTube highlights of that, and it's a hacking match to some bits of sporadic football breakout. So older ones than me, yet Michael Ross, don't mention that game. Don't know what one, either Rapid Vienna or Atletico.
Could be either or.
Yeah, give it either or. Yeah, indeed. So those scars remain deep and they burn, and I don't think they ever heal, to be honest. But there you go.
No, absolutely. Jamie Young brought in a comment here. I'm surprised we've got to Friday and I've not seen this comment since Saturday's shown at the Masters. I don't know what you think about this. I've definitely got an opinion on this, but Jamie Young says, Hooper back for 6 months, we've done worse. I don't think so.
I'm not having that. Yeah, well done Celtic winning the Masters, but I think that is one you definitely have to let go.
By that showing, you'd put Kelvin Wilson in a 6-month loan as well. Nothing get past that man. He looks as if he could still play.
Yeah,
I think he's definitely one of the. I know we've not really been talking about it as much, but I think Kelvin Wilson was one of the underrated Celtic players over the past 10 years or so. He did have a shaky start to his life at Celtic, but I think if it wasn't for homesickness, he would have went on to become a really good central defender over the years for Celtic. It's just a shame. And he did say when he went back to Nottingham Forest that he regretted leaving Celtic. So, the grass isn't always greener. It certainly isn't greener for a lot of the players that leave Celtic to pastures now. But a good defender. He'll always be a part of that team that defeated Barcelona. So his name will always be remembered in that light.
Steve Murray, he was at Old Trafford in '84. Big Roy Keane hit the post before Rapid Vienna scored. Indeed, Peter Packel scored for Rapid Vienna. Pete McGee, World Club versus Racing Club was the worst ever, Tony, so I'm told, and it still annoys me, and I wasn't even around, but there you go. Jerry Smith, Madrid had 3 players sent off that night. Wijanki kicked off the park. Correct. He was indeed. On you go, Ryan.
They get 3 players that sent off. I'm guessing this is terrible if you know your history and all that. What was the score in that game?
Nothing each at Celtic Park. Lost 2-0 in the return in the semi-final
against
Atletico Madrid 74. They get.
Oh, was it after the game?
Players were sent off near the end. Basically, right, okay. They did everything.
Because if it was about half an hour ago, that'd have been a shocking result.
I don't think they played any great length of time with the players that were sent off. I think they get sent off in the latter stages, but they came and did what they had to do and get a 0-0. I think they were leading Bayern 1-0 in the final. Bayern Munich scored a last-minute equaliser and then hammered them 4-0 in the replay. And Atletico lost the final, so lots of people, so that is kind of revenge as sought, but not for me. I think Atletico and Rapid Vienna are swear words in English, the Celtic supporters dictionary, so...
Yeah, there definitely wasn't a lot of friendliness, I would say, between Celtic and Rapid Vienna when there was friendlies a couple of years ago. I remember when Celtic always go on their Austrian travels, and they like a training camp or two over there. They were playing Rapid Vienna. As much as I like to paint it as a friendly, just the ties in the past will make sure that just is not the case between the two sides. Even more so due to the fact that they sold us ball and goalie as well. So that doesn't do anything to mend ties between the two clubs. That's for sure.
There wasn't any bridges mended with that one. Let's put it that way. I think they sold Celtic a bridge, did they not?
Yeah, or they knocked it down
with ball and goalie. But there you go. Now Thomas Gallagher comes in, giving his team Joe Hart, Alistair Johnston, Gustav Lagerbielke, Nat Phillips, Greg Taylor, Callum McGregor, Matt O'Reilly, Reo Hatate, Daizen Maeda, Yang, and Kyogo. That's his team, and he's got 5-0 as his prediction. With Phillips on the score sheet, you heard it here first. Andrew Gillier saying Celtic 1, Dundee 0. Okay, Ryan, we've got to 57 minutes. Prediction time. You want to go first or second?
in terms of team or in terms of scoreline?
Well, you'll do your predicted 11, so we'll keep that for that article. But scoreline?
I'm going to keep it consistent. I said it last night and I'll say it this morning. 5-0 Celtic. Celtic at 5-0. Got it against when one of Ange Postecoglou's first games. That was Kyogo's sort of breakout game. Scored a hat-trick. Ryan Christie got a hat-trick of assists. I will maintain that Ryan Christie was man of the match that day, not Kyogo. 3 assists that led to goals. What a performance from him. What could have been with Ryan Christie, I would say, as well. And Ange Postecoglou is onto a winner with him. Definitely, if you coach him the right way and you don't allow him to take as many shots from outside the box, and you basically you tell him what he can and can't do, then I think there's definitely a player there. But that's all in the past now. Ryan Christie had a really good game, and I expect maybe a player like Matt O'Reilly, Paulo Bernardo to have the same against Dundee. Dundee will put up a good performance. Will probably put up a good performance, but I think there'll be too much for Celtic. Celtic will get a couple of goals on the day. 5-0 will do, mate.
Hazel Finn 3-1. Cheers, Hazel. Jerry Smith, a boost for Tuesday, 6-0 for Celtic. Rebel Double X 3-1 for Celtic. Michael Ross 4-0. Derek Smith saying 6-0 with a bit of style. Francis PC Green saying 6-1 Celtic. Others saying that it'll be a bit closer. Dundee are pretty solid, so 2-0 says Mark E.
See, I'm not really basing the 5-0 on anything. I just think there will be a response. I think there needs to be.
3-0 O'Reilly first goal says Marty Boy. Gordon Flowers 2-0. Smell the Glove 3-0. No injuries. Brian Roberts 3-0. Pete McGee 3 points to Celtic. There you go. So most people. Stephen 11-0. Francis PC Green, but a win will do. Fast flow and rip roaring. Go on, Tony. I said it earlier. It's rip roaring, free scoring, never boring. Celtic. Ryan's going for a 5-0. So that'll be of the rip roaring, free scoring, never boring kind. So I usually go either 1 up or 1 down from whatever other guys say. So I'll go 4-0, Ryan. All right, but I
Yeah,
was
that's
going
what
to.
other Ryan said last night as
I was
well.
going to say
Yeah.
5. There you go. I'll go a conservative 4-0 then. But yeah, I think most people are confident that Celtic will be able to see off Dundee tomorrow. 4-1 says Mark McQueen, and Kaiser. Celtic will win 5-0. But there you go. Well, Mark, we'll wrap it up there. We'll be doing our predicted 11, so look out for that. Although, without giving too many spoilers away, I think you've probably guessed what it is. Ray Smith
Even though
coming in
you
and
might
says,
know what's
great show, lads. Hail, hail. Thank you very much, Jerry. That's very, very kind. We
absolutely.
appreciate it. It's, as we say, we can't do it without you. We always appreciate your thoughts in the comment section as well. And as we do every day, we ask you and we urge you to also subscribe to the Celtic Way website and help support top quality journalism covering the club that you love. It's all for a click of a button, and it's currently £4 for 4 months of instant access to everything that we do on the web. And that's for a click of a button. www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Hope you enjoy the YouTube videos as well. If you subscribe, that helps us keep doing the videos for free, and all the other content that you see on the YouTube channel. We hope you enjoy that. Ryan's did my top 5 Celtic moments. It's up on the YouTube website, and it will be around on Sunday with Tino from the
Sunday at 6.
Celtic Exchange. Yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to that coming out. Some definitely a lot of things to talk about. Some very recent games as well in his top 5 moments, which I think goes to show how successful Celtic have been over the past few years. I mean, recent as in after lockdown, especially. There are some big games from even a few years ago. So yeah, it's
Well, I think Ange Postecoglou's era will be well remembered and
they
fondly
are.
remembered by a lot of Celtic supporters. So yeah, Francis P.C. fantastic show, lads. Now enjoy your day, folks, and have a great weekend. He's just about to steal my line there, Francis, but yeah, that's how we feel. Good show again, boys. Thank you, Dennis, Kaiser. Great show, lads. Cheers for that. We appreciate it. As I always say, have a fantastic weekend. It's always result dependent, though, isn't it? Ryan's going 5-0. I've gone 4. Here's hoping one of us is right. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. We shall see you tomorrow at some
Yeah, we'll
point.
see you
Ryan,
tomorrow
yeah?
for a pre-match and a post-match.
Pre-match and a
Pre-match for the team
post-match.
prediction, not the team prediction. Reacting to the team, and then post-match after the game.
Excellent. Take care. Have a wonderful Friday. See you guys tomorrow.
Cheers, guys.